What's up, everyone? My name is Ryan Flaco Rising, and today I'm going to be going through my PhD thesis. This is going to be a collective of videos that I will be recording, and I'm going to establish my research, and I'm going to showcase all my research findings and everything. So this is the first video in a series of videos that are to come. So my research is examining higher education's role in reentry, and I'm doing a critical analysis of programs and pathways for formerly incarcerated students in California. All right, well, let's get ready. Let's dive in. The proposed study aims to examine the role of higher education programs for formerly incarcerated students. Despite the positive impact of education on incarcerated persons, little is known about the nature and impact of higher education programs on formerly incarcerated students. My project design for this research includes 3 phases. Phase 1, I will be doing a systematic review of higher education programs and also student-led programs and organizations created to support formerly incarcerated students in the United States. So I'm going to be looking at all the programs that exist and all the different universities in all the different states across the nation. And in this first phase, I will also be doing a literature review, and I'll be looking at all the literature and all the conversations that exist around these programs in higher education, and also formerly incarcerated students and the impact of higher education on recidivism and all the different conversations that are being had around the impacts of higher education on formerly incarcerated individuals post-release. Phase 2, I'm going to be establishing multiple cohorts. So I'm looking to recruit 120 formerly incarcerated students in higher education programs and California community colleges, California state universities, and University of California campuses. And I'm going to be following them for 2 years with surveys, looking at their networks, using ego network analysis methods to establish the networks that they have, and following and looking at how those networks support them. And I will also be doing interviews, and will be just, open-ended questions, very holistic interviews, just really trying to examine each formerly incarcerated person and their experience through higher education and the impact higher education has on their journey after incarceration and their pathways to higher education, their social support networks, challenges and barriers experienced, and reentry outcomes. Phase 3, which will be my final phase in my research, will be interviews with higher education program administrators. I'll be locating 30 administrators in California community colleges, California state universities, and University of California campuses, looking at these stakeholders and their experiences and gaining information on program structure, how they identify success, what is success for these formerly incarcerated student programs, and the resources and services provided to formerly incarcerated students, and what ways can we enhance formerly incarcerated students' reentry outcomes, and what ways can we enhance these programs that now exist at each public university here in California. I want to look at, all the different obstacles, all the barriers. I want to critically look at the response from the universities, the administrations, and just look at all the people who are involved in supporting these programs, and also look at what is lacking support wise statewide throughout these universities. My study aims to produce the first comprehensive national scan of existing programs for formerly incarcerated students and contribute to understanding the impact of higher education programs on their reentry outcomes. And there is implications for policy and future research, which will be discussed. And I encourage everyone to join in on this conversation. This is a a conversation that needs to be had. You know, we have programs that are now being fully funded by the state, and we need to look at how are these funds being allocated? What are these funds doing to support these students? What types of resources are these students gaining access to? And what are the outcomes, right? And so I've identified some gaps right away in my research. And so that's what I'm here to do today is run through these gaps that I'm seeing and articulate them to you and look at possible ways to fill in some of these gaps that are already being noticed. So many formerly incarcerated individuals face challenges when trying to advance their careers after completing higher education programs. So in California, there are several programs that aim to support the educational and career goals of formerly incarcerated individuals, including the Rising Scholars Program, Project Rebound, and the Underground Scholars Program. However, these programs face challenges in terms of staff representation, organizational structure, and career pathways for graduates. This presentation focuses on the first phase of my research project that examines the experiences and perspectives of formerly incarcerated individuals in these programs. So let's begin with the Rising Scholars Program, a program in California community colleges that provides support services to students who were formerly incarcerated or who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. Now, this program has not been around long. I got out in August 12th of 2015 from New Folsom State Prison. I started my college journey at San Diego City College. At this time, there was only Project Rebound and a couple of the CSUs. And there was like one Berkeley Underground Scholars Program at Berkeley only, and there was really none in the community colleges whatsoever. Now, when I showed up to San Diego City College, there was no resources. I didn't feel like I belonged. I dealt with so much imposter syndrome, and I just felt out of place, and I didn't have no space where I felt like I could, go in and I could see my people. But I seen my people all over the campus. Oh, you just got out. What's up, man? How long were you down for? Like, oh, I was down. I got out a year ago and I've been right here. So I recognized there was a lot of formerly incarcerated students here at this campus. And we created the Urban Scholars Union, which was a student-led organization where we came together and we started to empower each other and we started to uplift each other and we started to see, so during this time, I remember getting denied employment at San Diego City College. And I remember talking to the vice chancellor at the time, which was Lynn Newalt, and I told her how I felt. And I remember, like, she said, like, you're right, like, there's no services for you all whatsoever. Like, this is a problem. And I told her, like, all we want to do is get out. We want to better our lives, and we want to create upward mobility and be reunified with our families. And we see college as a place where this possibility could come to life, and she agreed. And so I don't know what came after that, but I know there was a lot of people that started to advocate for support services, and the Rising Scholars Program came a few years after I was at San Diego City College, and I was graduating by this time. So I didn't get to really receive the support services that this program says it is allocating to its students. And so while this program is a step in the right direction, it faces a gap and a significant challenge from my point of view and from what I see. What I'm seeing with this program is, yeah, there's services, there's resources, but they don't have much representation of like directors who are formerly incarcerated and have direct connections to the students that they're serving. This lack of connection really has caused, serious disconnect from this population on multiple campuses, from my interviews and from, you know, my study. And so I feel like this is problematic. I feel that, you know, my research showing that we need directors that are formerly incarcerated to connect with these students. And so the way these students have been able to try to like combat this is by developing their own student-led organizations on these campuses, where administration and you know, directors of project of the Rising Scholars Network really don't have control or a say over it. And these student organizations are pushing the Rising Scholars Network for resources, for different support services, for employment opportunities for as student employees. Some are getting these jobs, but you know, it would be nice to see more formerly incarcerated directors and more formerly incarcerated deans that oversee this department. And as we advance up the ranks of the academy of academia, I believe that we should be able to fill these roles. I feel that these roles should be allocated to formerly incarcerated individuals with the credentials. And so my hope is in the future, we can see this happen. So the need for lived experience, the lack of formerly incarcerated staff is hindering the potential of this program. Without lived experience, program staff may not fully understand the needs and perspectives of their participants, which may result in underutilizing the program's potential. One possible solution to this challenge is through the creation of formerly incarcerated student organizations, and these organizations can help participants develop themselves professionally, advocate for their needs, and potentially serve as a pipeline for program staff. So what I'm saying is that, for instance, you know, one program that I seen develop out of a formerly incarcerated student organization, Biggie. You got Cheech Regosa from Santa Maria College who created Biggie, and then all of a sudden you have like a Rising Scholars program come in, parachute in, and you know, get the grants and start to fill up this space. And Biggie was there already. So I believe that Cheech is now getting his credentials. And so what I'm saying is that formerly incarcerated individuals that are getting their credentials that started the work on these campuses should be welcomed back in as a director, as a staff, as some sort of key role in the Rising Scholars program from the campus that they transferred out of after they get their credentials. I feel like if we're doing this work, if we've created this work, there needs to be upward mobility for formerly incarcerated folks. And that's what we're doing these college programs for. That's what we're doing these degrees for, and that's what we're chasing after, is upward mobility, where we get careers for us to take care of our families. And so when I look at Rising Scholars all the way up to the top, it's not conducive of what it's saying it's doing. So yeah, it's allocating resources, it's, you know, creating upward mobility, it's you know, saying it's creating career pathways into the you know, into the market. But when these individuals get their degrees and they hit the market, they're still facing all the barriers. So I feel like Rising Scholars at some point needs to reflect the population that it serves, with its, you know, people that are working up with the vice chancellor's offices, all the way to the top, all the way to the top through this program. So my research is saying that's the way this program is gonna really do what it was intended to do, which is give formerly incarcerated individuals upward mobility, resources, wraparound services when they land on these campuses, and be a vital reentry resource. That's the only way. Now, I'm going to jump into the next slide. Project Rebound. Project Rebound, it's been around, the oldest program for formerly incarcerated students, created by John Irwin, and was created in 1969, and it was out of San Francisco State. After he got out of prison, he went into higher ed, and this program didn't even get any recognition, anything. It, until relatively recent, when all this, started to come to life with these programs. So Project Rebound was, it helped a lot of people, and then now it's expanding through the CSUs. Project Rebound is a program in the California State University campuses that supports formerly incarcerated individuals in accessing higher education and completing their degrees. And it's a program that's, got a lot of proven success, and, has gotten state funding. And to back up, the Rising Scholars program got a bunch of funding. $11 million is being allocated to 50 programs throughout the state in all the different community colleges. So these programs are being funded from the state. The state is given this funding on the grounds of creating upward mobility for formerly incarcerated people. And that's the same with Project Rebound. It's the funds are to create career pathways and help get formerly incarcerated individuals into sustainable careers where they're able to sustain themselves and experience upward mobility for themselves and their families, so that we can lower the high recidivism rates that exist in our communities. Now, while the program has been successful in hiring a lot of directors that are formerly incarcerated, Project Rebound, huge motto. Directors, they really have that lived experience. That's vital. Now, if I compare it to a Rising Scholars program where that lived experience really isn't like, it isn't there, and the directors, maybe one or two staff. There is one, and I want to give kudos. There is one director who just got hired on a few months back out of SAC. And I don't even want to throw his name out there. I'll keep it, with the pseudo name. He knows who he is. He just got hired on because he got his master's degree, and then he's going for his PhD right now. So if it's a credential thing, and that's the case, then I hope to see a lot more directors get hired on into the director role at the Rising Scholars program really soon, because there's a lot of us that are getting master's degrees now. There's a lot of us getting PhDs now. And so now Project Rebound, it reflects that. It's got formerly incarcerated individuals as directors. But as you go higher up and you look at the executive directors, we got to question it. Straight up. And I hate to be the devil's advocate, and maybe a lot of people are going to be upset with this, but if we're doing what we are intending to do, and that's uplift formerly incarcerated individuals and help them and guide them, give them support services, get them their degrees, we're doing that. We're getting them their degrees. But if we can lead everyone and get them their degrees, and then afterwards there's nothing going on for them, then what are we really doing? It's easy to hand somebody a piece of paper and say, hey, you got the credential, you're in. But if they go out to the work field and they go out to the job market and they can't get a job that matches the credentials that they have, then we've failed. We failed them. We've set them up. And a lot of people who are formerly incarcerated are coming into these spaces and they're leaving with high debts. And right away, they're going delinquent on their student debts. Luckily COVID-19 hit. And so it hasn't been experienced quite yet, but there's been a lot of graduates that, they can't get a job that really could pay off these student loans that they were forced into because they couldn't pay for, their apartments. They couldn't pay for their living expenses, and they were forced to take out student loans. And I'm not saying that other students from low income, from impoverished communities, are not facing the same exact thing. But the one thing that they don't have is a conviction history. And we can go back and forth and argue this, but I argue the conviction history is stopping people at the door who have the credentials to actually do great work inside a lot of different sectors, a lot of government sectors too. There's just so much that's needed by credible messengers right now in the field, but we're still seeing that there's a slow response to hiring these folks, and so they're falling right at the gate. So yeah, we got some formerly incarcerated directors here, and CSU, it shines bright. It shines bright. Their Project Rebound shines bright. A lot of people want to be involved with Project Rebound. They got people who are dedicated to this work, and it's solid. Their success is solid, but we got to move them up. We got to get them into the executive board of directors. We got to get them in positions where they're chancellors or they're deans or they're running departments. We got to advance them. I mean, just a director role is cool, but what about a lot more teaching roles? What about opening up dean positions and vice chancellor positions, assistant vice chancellor? Like, where are the formerly incarcerated individuals at there? And so that we got to look at the bigger picture here, right? So Project Rebound, hands down, great program, and my research is showing that, and I'm still continuing to do interviews. I'm still looking at it closely, and then we got to shake from this top down approach to this work. We serve students. It's the students at the bottom who have the voice and who guide our programs at all times, straight up. So Rising Scholars, Project Rebound, Underground Scholars, it's the students at the very bottom who matter, the formerly incarcerated students, straight up. Lastly, but not least, the Underground Scholars Program. Now let's talk about the Underground Scholars Program, a statewide network of programs at the University of California campuses that support formerly incarcerated and system impacted students. Now, the Underground Scholars Program has been with me since 3 months before I got out of prison. I met one of the co-founders, Danny Murillo, 3 months before I got out, and he told me, hey, I'll get you into Berkeley. And it was funny because I was like, what? You'll get me into Berkeley? And he was like, yeah, how many units you got? He was like, I'll help you try to get into Berkeley. And I had 43 units. He was like, dang, all you need is like 20 more units and you're in. I was like, dang, okay, cool. So I didn't believe it, but I had this different vision that I was like, obsessing over while I was sitting in my cell in New Folsom State Prison. And then when I'd hit the yard, the homies would be like, hey, Flaco, you're short timing it. What you gonna do when you get out? And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to Berkeley. And they're like, what? What are you gonna do at Berkeley? I'm gonna become a doctor. And they started laughing, like, what, fool, you're crazy. This college courses made you go crazy, Flaco. You ain't gonna be no doctor, homie. I was like, I'm gonna be Dr. Flaco. Watch me. And it's crazy because here I am in my PhD program right now at UC Irvine, and I'm about to be Dr. Flaco. But it wouldn't have been this way without the Underground Scholars Program. And I'm not trying to put any type of bias, but I want to note this: there is no bias in what I'm doing here with my research whatsoever. The Underground Scholars Program helped me, but the Underground Scholars has a lot of growing that it's still doing, and the Underground Scholars barely received any funding. So they barely got statewide funding. And the UC, they haven't given us a penny. The Underground Scholars Program hasn't gotten a penny from the UC. And now that we got this funding, the UC, the UCOP is trying to take this funding and do what they want with it and and pretty much fragmentize our statewide network. And this is happening right now. And so the program has been intentional in hiring formerly incarcerated and system impacted directors since they've gotten this funding. But now that UCOP is getting involved, they're trying to put a hold on that and put a stop to that. They're trying to control and dominate these funds. Now, this is problematic because, one thing about the Underground Scholars Program that I've recognized in my whole entire autoethnographic research that I've been doing throughout my journey through this entire experience, they've been empowering students. They've been empowering formerly incarcerated students and system impacted students. And it's the formerly incarcerated and system impacted students that have built this program from the ground floor up. Hasn't been any administrators, hasn't been, there's been some allies, and yes, we'll tilt our hat to everyone who supported us along the way. But it's been these students who have not been able to be students whatsoever because they've had to work every single day to create this program. And so I want to highlight that because that is what helps develop individuals professionally. That's what gives them leadership development. That's what gives them all types of layers of understanding of how to navigate these systems, how to navigate meetings. And I'll just use my own self, and I'm not trying to do me search here. So all you guys trying to say Little Flower trying to do, nah, it ain't about me search, but I'm gonna use my own journey as an example because I don't want to throw anybody else out there. But I was sitting in meetings all the time up there at UC Santa Barbara in my undergrad. I was meeting with vice chancellors, assistant vice chancellors. I was getting all this, let me tell him, what he wants to hear. Let me, paint this picture for him. Let me just feed him. Let me pacify him and tell him what he wants to hear, and we continued to have to fight and fight and fight and struggle, and it's continuing today. The UC is continuing to treat the Underground Scholars Program just like that. So, we can't let this destabilize the Underground Scholars Program. But the Underground Scholars Program also has some things that it's hashing out within itself. But one thing I want to say is it's all about growing. And so now there's $4 million in the picture, and this money needs to be allocated correctly to these programs and to the statewide that built this program from the ground floor up. And they have the best intentions for this program. And so the UCOP, needs to really halt what it's trying to do here. And, there's been multiple incidences on these campuses where people are showing up to this space and they're trying to sabotage it. And so that's something I want to point out. It hasn't been an easy journey for formerly incarcerated students when they try to build spaces where they can, heal themselves and where they can, where they can be themselves without judgment. These spaces are infiltrated by outsiders who don't have the best interests of this space in their heart. And they come in and they bring in a ton of conflict, and they just start to create all this messy conflict. And it's happened at all these campuses. And I have interviews of it, of all this disgusting conflict that's being brought in from outsiders who say that they're about this work, but they bring in this conflict that then paralyzes this work and creates a ton of conflict that all the formerly incarcerated and system impacted students have to sit there and deal with and clean up. And so, but it's a work in progress, right? And so the way I see it is, we have to be hyper vigilant of our spaces. And the way I see it, and this research is showing, is that we have to protect our spaces, and we have to show the powers that be that they're not going to infiltrate our space, and they're not going to knock us down, and they're not going to co-opt us. And us formerly incarcerated deserve to be the directors, the executive directors. We deserve to be the ones at the forefront of these programs after going through everything that we're going through to get the credentials to be able to sit on these roles. And so I I want to conclude here with some policy implications. Programs that serve formerly incarcerated individuals need to have directors and employees who were formerly incarcerated and have the lived experience to inform the work and directly connect with the participants they serve. Public university programs should follow this policy all the way to the top of their organizational hierarchy. So I believe we need to develop a policy that mandates this, that mandates that if formerly incarcerated individuals go through these programs and they get their credentials and they worked hard on their campus to build these programs and establish these programs, then they should have some sort of component in place that brings that person back and hires them on after they have their credentials to become a director. Hands down, like I believe that that policy should be made. And then another policy is, I believe that we figured it out. We figured out how to get formerly incarcerated all the way through the ranks of the academia. We're getting them their associate's degrees at the community college level. We're getting them to the CSUs and to the UCs and getting them their bachelor's degrees. We're getting them to the UCs and the CSUs and the private universities, getting them their master's degrees. We're getting them to the CSUs and the UCs and the private institutions in California and getting them their PhDs. Well, they're getting them. All these individuals are getting them themselves. So what's the after plan? That's where we're at. What's the after plan? We're getting them there. But that's the conversation I'm trying to say here. What is the after plan? We're investing all this money. And I can look at it right now. We got 15 million just in the 15 million just in the CSU and the UC being allocated on an annual basis to Project Rebound and Underground Scholars, $15 million. Now you look at the Rising Scholars Program, you got 50 community colleges receiving, I think they have a pot of 11 to 15 million. I'll have to look at my notes, but you know, so there you go. $30 million is being allocated annually. And I rounded that up. $30 million is being, and it's not enough money. It's not a lot. It's a little piece, but they're being allocated to these programs. And you know, how are we measuring success here? Are we measuring the graduation as success, or are we measuring the after plan? And for me, the after plan is the critical, because that's what we were doing this for in the first place. We were doing this to create upward mobility. We were doing this to get these individuals into sustainable careers where they could, you know, take care of themselves and not go back and resort back to old behaviors in order to meet their basic needs of survival, you know? So there you have it, folks. There goes my policy implications, and I'm up for a conversation. I'm up for it. Like, so, you know, we're doing this work, and I'm continuing to do this work, and I'm going to continue to show up for this work. And this is my life passion now. We did it. We got the pathways created to these degrees, and we're continuing to scale these pathways, and we're continuing to show up and get people into these institutions. But these institutions still have a long way to go of transformation. They continue to want to control. They continue to want to be the ones who dominate and make the decisions for these people. And that's not proper. It's time to let these people come in and fill the roles and be at the table as decision makers. And that's what I'm suggesting today. It's time to let them become the decision makers of their own programs. Thank you. Thank you for listening. You want to hit me up, rrising@uci.edu, and be on the lookout for my next video. It's coming out soon, and I appreciate everyone. Take care.